world-class individuals and world-class CISOs ask questions. They don't try to be the smartest person in the room. Remember, one of the best questions you can ask is, what options are we not considering? What are some other alternatives to this problem that we haven't considered? Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Right, that seems to be my new tagline. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this episode of Life of a CISO with yours truly. Dr. E is in the house, and it's always a pleasure to be with you. This is always one of my favorite times of the day and the week where I get to sit down with you virtually. I know you're out there listening, right? Even though I'm sitting alone in my studio, right? I know you're out there, so appreciate you listening. If there's anything we can do to help you, remember, always drop a comment below. If you want to take your career to that next level, you want to become world-class quicker and faster, remember, we do have the CISO certification. We have a lot of different options available. So you either want to go to secure-anchor.com/CISO or just drop me a line, either ecole@secure-anchor or info@secure-anchor, and somebody will get back to you and we'll definitely help you out and take really, really good care of you. As you know, one of my favorite quotes, and I have a lot of them, but one of those favorite quotes is, smart people know the right answer, but brilliant people ask the right questions. And what I really want to focus this episode on is, to be a world-class CISO, you have to become an expert at asking questions. Now, this is hard for most of us because it's contrary to how we were trained. Most of us, starting between age 4 to 6, attended school, whether it's actual school, homeschooling, there's more options these days, but attended school, and then many of us have gone to college and even advanced degrees. So for 15 to 20 years of our life, and remember, this is a part of our life when our brain was growing and we were very, very programmable. So during a time where we were growing and learning what is and is not acceptable, and our program for our operating system was being created, we spent 6 to 8 hours, 5 days a week, being told what? You must know the correct answer. If you know the correct answer, you get an A. If you don't know the correct answer, you get an F. And while not directly implied, it was definitely implied that you're not supposed to question the teacher. You're not supposed to ask a lot of questions, right? You're supposed to sit there and listen and learn. The teacher asks the questions in the form of a quiz or a test, and you provide the answer to get a good grade. So that's how most of us approach life, where it's all about knowing the correct answer. Those that know the correct answer win. And then to further push this issue, many of you started off your career on the technical side of the house. Many of you earning statuses like world-class security engineers, chief scientists, very, very well-respected individuals in your company, or you're on that path. And once again, security engineers, security analysts, what do they get paid for? To provide answers. Who's attacking us? Who's breaking in? How did they get in? How do we stop them? How long will it take to detect an attack? What can we do to minimize ransomware? Those are all answers you need to know in order to be world-class on the security side. So once again, this trend continues where the person that gets the grades, the person that goes to the good schools, the person that has the great GPA, and the person that gets promoted is the one who knows the answers. So we're all about trying to be the smartest person in the room, trying to know all the answers. And I will tell you, many of you, even if you're 2, 3, 5, 7, 10, 15 years into your career, when it comes to cybersecurity and you're in a meeting, you are often one of, if not the smartest person in the room. So it would make sense that you provide answers and give information, right? So you see this big trend going on. Here's the problem, though. When you move to a CISO and switch to that executive position, it's all about understanding and solving the problems. But in order to do that, you have to be able to ask a lot of questions. So you have to train how you normally operate from answering the questions to asking a lot of questions. And here's the biggest one. I can almost guarantee that when you get promoted to a CISO and you start going to the board of directors meetings where you have CEO, COO, CFO, and you have the 8 or 9 board of directors, it is almost a guarantee when it comes, remember, this is business. It's not cyber, it's business. I can almost guarantee that you are not the smartest person in the room when it comes to business. And in many cases, because you're fairly new at the position, it would be fairly safe to assume that you are probably the least smartest person in the room. So this is where security engineers that become CISOs get into trouble, because they go to a board meeting, they still believe they're the smartest person in the room, they still believe it's all about answers, and they start spewing out information that is either irrelevant, not correct, or confuses or frustrates or disrupts the meeting. And then guess what? They don't get invited back. So world-class CISOs ask questions. When I train and I get you ready, if you work with me, for your first board meeting, we're going to practice basically listening, and then strategically asking questions at the right moments. Once again, they need to be good questions. Well, that's bad, right? I hate to tell you, some people go, oh, there's no such thing as a bad question. These are these ridiculous phrases that people come up. There's absolutely bad questions, right? There's absolutely stupid and ridiculous questions. So this idea that, oh, don't worry, just ask whatever questions, there's no such thing as a bad question, that's wrong. Right? Come on. I mean, there are some stupid questions, right? That there are some bad questions out there. We have to recognize and accept the reality. So we have to be careful of the questions that we ask. So I'm going to go through and cover what are some questions that CISOs should ask, and or better, what are questions that CISOs should have asked and know the answer to. These are things that you must have asked these questions and know the answer to. Now, before I get there into world-class CISO, remember, I also want you to be a world-class individual. So I always like giving advice that applies to every area of your life. I'll give you one of the most powerful questions. This question, I have made a lot of money on this question. I have had people quote that I'm one of the most brilliant, creative people they've ever met. And I don't think I am, right? But it's all because of this one question. This one question is magical. And if you apply it into all areas of your life, it will have magical outcome. You ready for this question? You're probably wondering what it is. Here's the question. What options am I not considering? What things am I not considering in this situation? So think about that. You got into a discussion with somebody, you're trying to solve a problem, you got into an argument with your significant other, you're not getting along with your kids, and you have your normal mode of operation, right? You either fight back, you walk away, you go to the gym, you do whatever works for you. But I want to stop for a second and say, what are other options that you're not considering? What are some things in those cases that you might not normally be considering? And this is one with my daughter that changed everything. We were having some hard times, and normal reaction is she wasn't listening, she was lying, she wasn't doing what she was supposed to. So what are all the normal options? You get mad, you punish them, you take away their phone, you do all that. None of that was working. So I kept going and saying, what options am I not considering? And I basically went down this path of maybe there's things she's struggling and she feels alone and she just doesn't feel comfortable telling us. And that all we're doing in the fighting is pushing her away. So an option I didn't consider is, and I know it's hard when you can, and I'm not saying this is right, trust me, I am not a counselor here, I'm not a parent, I'm just trying to give an example. One of the options I said is, okay, when either she lies or does something she's not supposed to, I just go up to her, give her a hug and say, sweetie, I love you, and I understand being a teenager is hard. I don't punish her. I don't take away the phone. Now, first time you do that, she's like, well, what's going on here? But that thing changed everything because I looked at a different option. I approached it differently. One of my other favorite examples of the use of this question is, what options are you not considering? Is when COVID hit, I got in the best shape of my life. The year of COVID, or whatever people say, multiple years, but it was about 9 months, right, where everything was shut down. I got so ripped in the best shape of my life because I asked a different question. Now remember, during COVID, gyms were shut down. You couldn't get equipment, right? You couldn't get gym equipment if you tried to order it because of all the supply chain and working and factories being shut down and everything else. So most people during COVID actually got in the worst shape of their life because they went with the traditional questions. Can't go to the gym, can't get gym equipment, right? Can't go to work from home. You didn't need to get dressed up. You didn't need to wear anything below the waist, right, because of Zoom, right? So people just got into bad habits where they would wake up, put on a shirt, not necessarily get ready, right? Not care necessarily what they look like. They were only here up, so it didn't matter. Other factors. So for most people, because they asked the common questions, got in really, really bad shape. But I asked the question, what options am I not considering? You know what I came up with? Gym owners are struggling too. Their gyms are closed. They still have to pay rent. They still have to pay utilities. They still have to pay all those things. So that was an option that I don't think people considered, that there's these beautiful gyms that are sitting empty in which these gym owners are bleeding money. So an option that I didn't consider, but I did, was I went and looked up who one of the gym owners were, and I said, listen, what are you paying per month? What are you leaking right now? And it was about $7,000. I said, I'll make a deal with you. I'll basically take over the gym, and I'll pay the lease payment, the $7,000. So you're not out the money. But basically, buy the gym, and then we'll have an agreement that within 18 months, whenever you choose, you can come and buy back the gym, essentially at whatever I paid. So I bought a gym. And I know people are like, you crazy? I'm like, why? Yes, I had to lay out some money. But after 9 months, the gym owner, rightfully so, wanted the gym back, right? Smart move, and paid me back all the money. I basically gave him a loan. But in return for that loan, I had a beautiful 20,000 square foot professional gym at my disposal 24/7. So I could go in and do circuit workouts. I could set the equipment. I could leave it the way I wanted. I didn't have to clean up the weights. I basically had multiple benches and could work all the different options. And once again, people always laugh, but then they go, it's actually a pretty good idea, right? But it was an option most people didn't consider. Most people wouldn't consider during COVID to buy a gym because they didn't think out of the box. So really what this question, what options are you not considering? What makes it so brilliant in all areas of your life is it gets you outside your box. It gets you outside your comfort zone because there's always alternative options that you might not be considering. So I urge you This week, work, home, friends, whatever it is, if you get into some situation or you need to make a decision, before you make that decision, just ask yourself, what other options am I not considering? What other things could I do here? And just start getting crazy. Think out of the box. And you'll find that you'll start making much better decisions because you're no longer limited to your belief system, but you're stretching outside, coming up with other creative ways to solve that problem. Now, when it comes to being a world-class CISO, what are some of the questions you need to ask and you need to know the answer to? The first one, and this one always shocks me, but the first question that every CISO must ask, and typically you want to do it either after an NDA is signed or after you're hired. But this is something you need to ask very quickly, or you should research and figure it out if it's a publicly traded company. What business is the company really in? What is the business that the company is really in? And it's not going to be the vertical. Right? I had a friend who works at a hospital, and he says, oh, the business we're in is healthcare. That's not the business you're really in. The business that you're really in what is the hospital known for? Is it known for getting people in and out quickly, low emergency room rates, wait times? Is it known for the quality of the doctors? Is it known for surgery? Is it known for procedures or things like that? But there's a deeper component to every business. The vertical you're in, whether it's healthcare, oil and gas, commercial, consumer, retail, right? Those are verticals. But you need to remember that there's competition. And there's something that uniquely differentiates you from your competition. And that's what the CISO must understand. Because if you don't, and you put together systems that are contrary to the business you're really in, you're going to struggle. Example, what is the business that Amazon is really in? Most people would say, oh, they're retail. They're online retail. That's Amazon. No, it's not. The business that Amazon is really, really in is timely logistics. It's really supply chain logistics. It's if Eric in Virginia wants to order pina colada liquid IV, I just did this, by the way, what's the quickest, fastest way we could get it to him? Because let's face it, the reason I use Amazon most of the time as opposed to going to the store is because it's quicker, right? Yeah, I could sit here, order something, and by tomorrow morning have it from Amazon. So to me, to interrupt my schedule, drive to the store, park, do all those things, isn't worth it if I can get it within 24 hours. Now, if you think that Amazon is just an online retail store and you do things to disrupt their supply chain, if I go to order liquid IV and it says it will take 5 days or 8 days to deliver, I won't order from Amazon. Anything I order from Amazon, I always check the delivery date. And if it's not within 24 to 48 hours, I won't order it. Because if they're telling me it's going to come in 3 to 4 weeks, I'll just go to the store. Right? I don't need Amazon. Not everyone's like that, but that's how I operate. I'm always looking at the delivery date. So here's why this is important. If you're a CISO and you come into Amazon, you're hired as a CISO at Amazon, and you think they're in the online commerce and retail space, and you start going in and putting in all these segmentation controls. Okay, we got to segment out our front-end systems from our back-end systems, and we have to go in and do this, 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 and this. We got to put all this security to protect our information, our data, blah, 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 blah. And you disrupt the logistical process where you've made it so complicated, it now takes 4 days instead of 1 day for someone to get their product. You're not going to last. You're going to get frustrated. Everyone's going to get frustrated with you. And either you're going to quit or get fired. Because one of the golden rules you have to remember is at a CISO level, if cybersecurity negatively impacts the business you're really in, security is wrong. You're not going to last. So that's a problem with a lot of CISOs is they think they know the vertical. They focus security on the vertical, but they don't understand the competitive advantage. They don't understand the business the company is really in, and they do things to disrupt that, and they end up causing a lot of frustration for themselves in the business. So don't just say the vertical, but research and ask. And here's some sub-questions. What differentiates us from the competition? How is our business known in the marketplace? How do customers view us? What is our secret sauce? What makes us unique and different? Right? Those are all really good questions. When you're first hired, right, or even if you're struggling as a CISO, you want to go back and start talking to the vice president and the COO and the CFO and some of those other folks and just start asking those questions. What differentiates us from the marketplace? How are we unique? What would you say is the single biggest factor that contributes to our success? What are the things that we must continue to do to be successful in the future? Right? Notice all these questions are letting you understand the business, because the more you can understand the business you're really in, the more you can come up with creative solutions that support the business. I don't necessarily agree, but world-class security engineers can sometimes do things that are in the focus of security and not the business, because that's not their job. World-class security engineers are more focused on security, and often identify problems. World-class CISOs are supporting the business. They cannot interrupt the business, cause harm to the business. A CISO is using cybersecurity as a business enabler. Everything they do must support and enable the business to be more successful, make more profit, and drive revenue. Now, just so we're clear, I use commercial, profitable companies in my examples. But if you work for a nonprofit, if you work for a government, it all applies. Government, if you work at government agencies, you have budgets, you have accountability, right? You have all those things. Now, you might not be making the same profit and revenue, but you still have to deliver results and support a mission. So I'm using the terms generically, but I just want you to be clear. If you work for a government agency or others, don't be like, oh, what Eric's saying doesn't apply to me. It absolutely does. Absolutely does from that standpoint. So that's first thing. You need to understand what business are you really in. Next question, what are the financials? And a little different. You don't just necessarily want to know what is the revenue and profitability of the company. You do need to know that, because this is another one. I go and I talk to CISOs and I'm like, okay, what is the overall profitability? How much profit does your company make on a yearly basis? Oh, Eric, I'm not the CFO. The CFO worries about that. I don't need to worry about that. Let me ask you a question. If you have no clue how much money the company makes, how do you know what the appropriate budget should be for cybersecurity? Is $1 million an appropriate budget? Well, it depends. I'll tell you right now, some of the startups that I'm involved with, they're making $200K profit. So if I went in and recommended $1 million on security, they'd laugh me out the door. They'd be like, dude, are you nuts? Right? Maybe in those cases, you spend maybe 5 or 10K on security, right? It's a small company. On the other hand, when I worked at Lockheed, if I went to Bob Stevens, the CEO at the time, and I said to secure the entire Lockheed Corporation, I need $1 million, laughed me out of the room. Way too low. A multi-billion dollar company and you only want $1 million, it doesn't make any sense, right? So how in the world can you come up with appropriate solutions, prioritization, if you don't know what you're dealing with in terms of revenue and profitability? So you must know that. But then world-class CISOs go a level deeper. And that level deeper is this. What are the business or product lines that account for that percent of profitability? And here's why that's important. I've seen a lot of world-class CISOs, they come in to an organization and there's some hot new project. Listen, we're looking at rolling out this new solution, this new product line. It's going to roll out in a year. And they put 90% of their energy and effort against it. But then I come in and I do research. I'm like, you realize this new product line is currently making zero profit. And their best projections are that the profitability would actually make it the 7th profitable product. That means there are 6 other product lines that are making more profit than this, even if it's successful. It's an if, and those are currently doing it today. And the number one product line for this company accounts for 65% of all the profit. So as a world-class CISO, it doesn't always work this way, but wouldn't it make sense that you're spending some percent of time on a product line that accounts for 65%? One could even argue that maybe you should spend 65% of your time, right, on something that accounts for 60% of the profitability, because you want to support the company. If a product line that makes a small amount of money gets hacked, the impact is smaller than a product line that accounts for 65%. See where I'm going here? So we need to make sure that we're putting these pieces together and we're thinking a lot more strategic. So the questions that world-class CISOs ask are strategic based. One of my other favorite questions, and this is when you're talking to executives of the board, what are you most concerned or afraid of when it comes to the success of this company? What is it that, if it happened, could have detrimental impact on this organization? Some alternatives to this question. What, if it happened, could put us out of business? What events, if they occurred, could greatly impact the future viability of the organization? So you're doing worst case. You're doing worst case scenario. The next one you have to ask. So notice what we did. We're asking questions to get current reality. So current reality. What business are we really in? What are the profits? What are the margins? How do we make our money? So current reality, to maintain that. Then we asked a set of questions on worst case. What are the things that, unforeseen, if they happened or occurred, would have major impact? The next set of questions we want to ask is future onset. So you ask executives, what are our 3 to 5 year goals for our company? What is our growth projections for our company? Now, this is critical for a CISO, because if you have a company that for the next 3 to 5 years wants to do 2 to 3% growth, your decisions that you make in terms of how big a SIM do you need or how big devices must you purchase are going to be different than if this company is looking at doing major acquisitions and doubling their size every 2 years. If you have a company that's $2 billion and in 3 years, in scenario 1, they want to be $2.5 billion, and in scenario 2, they want to be $12 billion, can't you see how that's going to influence your decision? Like, that's going to greatly dictate how you build your team, how you grow your team, what you purchase, what you put in place, infrastructure, and all these other items. So these are questions that you want to make sure you're asking on a regular basis. So as we start to wrap up, world-class individuals and world-class CISOs ask questions. They don't try to be the smartest person in the room. Remember, one of the best questions you can ask is, what options are we not considering? What are some other alternatives to this problem that we haven't considered? And then world-class CISOs understand the business, understand the real business, and understand where the company is going. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Life of a CISO. As I said, if we can help you out in any way, shape, or form, please post comments below or reach out to us. I'd love to get you to one of our coaching programs, and I'd love to work with you and help you accelerate your path to being a world-class CISO.